are going to make money on your feet. Don't worry. Don't worry what they say about you. I want you to know that because I want you to know that not everything about sex work is horrible. There's good things that can come out of this. I gained self-esteem out of this. Sorry, I'm kind of emotional. But because of criminalization, we have horrible, horrible things happening to people. I have a little list here of things that are happening to sex workers today. We have sex workers who right now are at risk of being raped. They can't call authorities. They're at risk of being mugged. They're at risk for theft. They're in constant fear every second of their lives of homelessness, or they have been driven homeless already. They have lack of ability to have friends, just constant loneliness, constant need to lie. And domestic violence, blackmail. I was blackmailed by my own boyfriend for years. It was horrible. He stalked me. And just the inability to be a normal human citizen in this society and have the same protections as everyone else does. So I'm here to help you understand sex work and help you understand it's not what you think it is. If you have any preconceived notions about it, you probably don't know what it's about. And I'm here to help you understand these are people who are persecuted and vulnerable and need our help and deserve protections, deserve rights, like every other human does on this earth. Let me be better. I also want you to know that sex workers are helping the world because there have been studies done that show that there are actually a large percentage of men that girls will give the time of day to. When sex workers are no longer there for them or no longer present, they become very bitter, very angry, and very violent. Justifiably so. It's like, why are you all having fun and I can't? But when sex workers are around, they calm down, go back to life, and things are fine. Okay, so I think I'm preaching to the choir. We all know it's a libertarian meeting. You know that people should have the rights to do with their own body what they want. And whatever gets you into sex work, whether it's like, I was a nerd and wanted boys to like me, or whether you just need money, whether you hate men, that's why you're doing it, or because you love men, or there's 1 million and billion reasons to get someone into sex work. For me now, I want liberation. I don't want a puritanical society to tell me I have to have this thing chopped off and sewed up, but that I should have control over my own body. And unfortunately, sex workers are under a huge attack right now, which my friend Robin is going to talk a little bit about with you. Sorry, I'm so emotional. It's just because I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so happy to finally feel some support in a time when we are some of the people left that pretty much don't feel like we have rights and we have no protection. And you might think that, sex workers they're all young girls. No. We have big girls, we have skinny girls, we have transsexuals, we have senior citizens doing this, 60 and up, whose SSI isn't making it. We have all kinds of people. We have gay men doing it, and we have, unfortunately, a very small slice of straight men doing it, but I hope that in the future, things get more progressive, and a few more men for hire, but and I want you to know that the rest of the world has already decriminalized, pretty much, other than us. We have girls in Australia who've been contacting me, and they're telling me, I feel like a goddess now. I feel like, protected. I feel happy. I feel cared about. Because they were decriminalized. They can actually feel loved. And that's really, really big in the human rights world. So I think this is the next big human rights issue. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about clients and pimps. Okay.
There you go. No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I'm like shaking. So
no, it's okay.
Okay.
You're probably talking about the microphone.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay.
There you go.
For the
Perfect.
microphone. I'm shaking anyway, and now I'm emotional. So. Okay. So pimps and clients are not always bad people. Pimps and clients. I don't want you to think that pimps and clients are bad people. What's bad is the abuse. It's the violent ones. So if you have a good client who's generous and kind, a single mom who's a sex worker trying to take care of a child, she's going to really appreciate that client. She's going to need that client. So if good clients are awesome. Someone who's trying to get you work and is not abusive to you is an awesome person, right? And clients need to be decriminalized for several reasons. Number one, clients support the sex workers, and sex workers need clients. Number two, the clients are also getting abused. So there are criminals hiding out there, posing as sex workers. They'll get a client to come to a location, and then they jump him and mug him, and he can't call 911. And they know this. So there's predators out there hiding behind criminalization. And then thirdly, clients are going to be super huge at stopping sex trafficking. Clients are the ones that are offered sex trafficking. They know where it is. And you might think, oh, clients, yeah, those are the ones that are going to go for the sex trafficking. No, most clients don't like sex trafficking. They're people. Even if 90% of the clients like sex trafficking, but only one didn't, that one would report under decriminalization. But right now they can't. I actually myself know 2 clients. One got offered something suspicious and told me. The second one went to a girl's place, said, I felt horrible. I thought maybe she was a slave, but I didn't know. I left the money, I went outside. He stood out on the sidewalk for like 10 minutes trying to decide should he call the cops or not. Eventually, he was just too terrified that he would be traced back. There's cameras everywhere. You don't know what's, they're gonna find out who called, right? So he couldn't call the cops. Do we know if that girl's alive now or not? No, she could be dead. That's not cool. So under decriminalization, he could have called. The cops would have gone right in. Legit person would have been like, come on in, thank you for protecting me, officer. But an illegitimate place, we're gonna start knowing where they are. So you can see why I'm so desperate to get these petition signatures. It's gonna end abuse against sex workers. It's gonna end abuse against clients. It's gonna help end sex trafficking. It's just gonna be liberation. We're gonna finally join the rest of the world who already has decriminalized. England, Australia, Canada, Mexico, France, India, on and on and on. We're like, it's embarrassing that America is one of the few that hasn't decriminalized, but instead is persecuting our lower classes. Because we're not talking rich people here. We're talking people who get used and then they get abused for it. So, again, I don't want you to think that all sex work is bad though. That's why I started with a good story. I want you to understand it's the criminalization here that causes the hell. In Australia, the sex workers, people are able to make an extra buck here or there, and they're feeling awesome about themselves. They walked out in the sunshine and they're like, you know what? I'm proud of myself, and I own my body. So, I don't know how to get the petition signatures. I've never done this before, and I heard you're really good at it, so I would really appreciate if after this, oh, by the way, I'm a libertarian now, all the way. And I'm kind of hoping that in November, if we can win, that somehow we get some publicity rolling, and libertarians just need to take over like every spot. I will vote for libertarians, and I'll tell everyone I know. If we are able to get the petition signatures, I'll need your help, so I'll need you to volunteer. Email me, I don't know, maybe Angela, or you know how to do it already. She said you know how to get signatures.
We'll pass around a sign-up sheet for anybody who wants to help get signatures.
Okay, awesome. And I was like thinking, I did the math, it only takes 160 people to get 375 signatures each. I have to get it within 3 months on paper. That's not that bad. And then I can get it on the ballot with a lawyer that I've been working with. And if we can win in November, hold some protests, publicity, or whatever, it's going to be worldwide news. And I totally want the libertarians to get credit for it, because you deserve it. And, all the other countries are watching us like, what are you doing to your people? So it would be a huge thorn in the side of the 2 other parties that are crushing us right now. And I think my friend Robin wanted to say a couple words about it's expanded past sex workers. So she wanted to just say a few things. Robin, you want to say something on that?
And can you also tell us about your petition before you guys are done?
Oh yeah, so I actually have the petition language here. So I'm gonna pass these around and a couple of other things, so that's on the top. If you have a problem with it, please tell me, because I want it to be something good. And you can read it, and I don't know.
I have a question. Yeah. Because you've been talking about the decriminalization, and I know in other countries, well, I'm from Europe, and I know in Germany, for example, it's also regulated. It's not only decriminalized, there is also regulation such that there is an income for the government, because on sex work, certainly pay taxes. So the question is, what are you proposing is only general regulation, so no one is checking anything, or also?
What I'm proposing is just decriminalization for the sex workers, for clients, and for what was commonly called pimps, but people who get you jobs that aren't abusive. So the language says something like, as long as there's no violence or other crimes, then it'll be decriminalized. At this time, I'm personally just going for decriminalization because then we're dealing with this, maybe the city, doesn't want to have to do more work revolving around this, sub-departments create more laws and rules and stuff like that. I figure that if they're going to do that to us, they're going to do that in the future. They can figure that out. They can start doing licenses or, and I don't want any blockade to sex workers either because they're terrified enough right now. And then if I tell them, oh, you have to come to the city hall and stand in front of a bunch of cops and get a license, I don't think they're going to do that right now. Did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, actually on a lot of topics, for example, from drugs that can not only decriminalized, but also the regulation part. I don't know how many individuals are okay with them regulating it or just.
I'm hoping just going for gold, just going for decriminalization, and going to let them slap things down later. So also, I think, I'm sure if I said this or not, but there's a lot of transsexuals doing this too. So it's also merging straight into the gay rights and transsexual rights area too. So, yeah.
I was just saying, in terms of moving it forward, in terms of the language and stuff like that, I don't know what it is. I haven't read it yet, but
Okay, I'll read it.
libertarians, just saying, libertarians like to use words like voluntary, voluntarism, consent, things like that. So those are like key words that really actually have meaning that can help to be more broad.
Anything that helps would be awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So this is how we have it worded now, but suggestions, I went over this with a lawyer and changed it and stuff. So I wanted to add the word help in front because I don't think this will end sex trafficking, but he just put end without help. So it goes like this: end sex trafficking and protect workers, their children, and their human rights by ceasing to enforce laws against adult sex work. So sex workers may come to authorities for help and protection, allowing them to live lives as normal citizens and join society by ceasing the funding of or support of anti-sex work programs, by prohibiting discrimination in housing against sex workers and clients, by enforcing existing criminal laws that prohibit crimes such as battery, extortion, or rape, regardless of the victim's status as a sex worker, and by fully disclosing the investigation and prosecution of violent crimes against sex workers and clients. Sounds pretty good?
Well, the only thing that I would say is that I would question the prohibiting discrimination in housing against sex workers. See, the thing is that another aspect of this is that we have to look at all parties and say, are we asking the government to force people who still have some kind of thing against it?
Like a moral thing.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're not into forcing anybody to do anything, and it's sort of like, I just have to question that.
So
like, what does that mean? What is that implying?
Are you saying that if you would want homeowners to have the ability to say, I don't want sex workers in my renting units?
They do have that.
Well, I mean, it's just like, and we're just saying, right now, most people probably wouldn't care, and that's fine. It's just a matter of, like,
Well, it's kind of like saying if you're gay, you can't rent from me, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
I think there's a compromise.
Workers are protected class.
I think there's a compromise in here.
I think the problem is, there's, in libertarianism, there's a very strong, opinion about property rights and about forcing people to use their property in certain ways. So language like prohibit or people from discriminating means forcing people. So if you maybe change it to just discourage discrimination, basically, because it would discourage it, because people wouldn't be as afraid to rent to sex workers.
yeah, and we're not trying to like scare you away or anything like that by
It
any
would just be better.
means. I mean, we totally are on board with.
I'll tell you my
all
fear.
of that. Yeah, no, it's great. No,
Is-
of course.
My fear, I'll tell you my personal fear.
Mhm.
I want to do sex work. It's,
Yeah.
I've tried other stuff.
Yeah.
It's my thing, okay?
Okay.
But I live in constant fear every day of being homeless.
Because you don't want.
Because I might be thrown out
Right.
any second if I'm caught.
So let me tell you from someone who does real property law and deals with landlords, that my personal incrementalist approach on this, which is a hard word to come out of my mouth as a hardcore anarcho-capitalist who would like to sell nukes and heroin to children, just kidding, kind of, is
Just kidding,
that,
kind of.
is that you could say something along the lines of bring it into conformance with the housing laws that are already in place regarding discrimination. There's a lot that could be looked up and tooled around with this regarding property laws that are already in place in California. I totally hear you though, on not wanting to lose your job because you're afraid that your landlord, that your landlord is going to toss you out because it's your job, because it's property rights, but then it's also your private business. And I think that, I mean, we could certainly talk about this and workshop it here, but I think that there's probably a solid legal compromise
Absolutely.
if you
of
study the law.
It's semantics.
Yes.
Yeah, and just personally, I mean, if I had property, I wouldn't have a problem with you renting from me. That's all I'm saying, is that there's a lot of people out there, I think most people who own property are probably not so, they want money. They're not concerned about who's renting from them.
Yeah, if it wasn't illegal for them, I think
Fair enough.
that they would be more cool with it,
Yeah, there'd be, and of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they just want to make sure that everything is above board, obviously. But if you're not a problem tenant, I personally,
I'm like the best tenant you could
of
ever
course,
see.
I don't even doubt that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that from a standpoint of, if I were to own property and be a landlord, do I want government telling me what I can and can't do with my property? That's the only thing. And you can look at it from that standpoint too. You're asking the government to stop looking at your body as your property and telling you what to do with your property.
Yeah.
You kind of have to have the same consideration for everybody across the board. I know sometimes it seems like this is more important than that, and I totally understand, I totally get that. But from a libertarian standpoint, we want everybody to be able to do with what they want with themselves and their bodies and their property.
I mean, it may not be as important as you think, because there may be plenty of landlords that would be okay with it, and then the ones that aren't,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
I have a question.
and by all means, it's totally libertarian to boycott and to spread the word about landlords who are that way, who don't like sex work. And that can make a huge difference in changing their behavior.
What's your date? What's your date for getting
I'm
this?
thinking to start on June 1st-ish.
So when do you need your final draft of your petition?
I guess probably about that time, because then we could just distribute it quickly.
Do you know how the process works at the County Register Recorder's Office yet?
No,
You need to contact them first.
okay.
Jose,
No, I had a comment / question.
Okay, one
He said,
second.
Go ahead and finish.
you need to contact them and find out the process. I can probably get you a handful of libertarian lawyers to review this
Okay,
so that it's legally up to snuff. Because another thing you're going to encounter is people legally picking it apart.
yeah.
And we want to make sure, I don't know what attorney you're working with and if he does petitions regularly, but we want to make sure that it's airtight.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I freaking love you, Michael. Thank you.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna help get this on.
And by the way, I signed your thing, I'm gonna help you get some.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say is that we are, in this state, we are a long way away from the general public understanding what everybody in this room does understand. They, much of the public just see sex workers as victims and or horrible people. So somewhere, like if you started it and said, recognizing that sex work has been part of every society, will continue to happen, the idea is to make it safe, and try to make it more of a, it's gonna happen, folks, so
It is,
let's-
there's nothing that criminalization would do to stop it. I actually know what will end sex work. And the only thing that's gonna end sex work is not needing money anymore. You know, something else that will replace that money in that amount of time is,
Utopian society.
yeah, so.
Probably not gonna be seeing anytime soon. Jose, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I have a comment slash question. First, I'm a landlord, and in the contract I have for the tenant, it just says that they will not violate any laws of the state or the federal government. And
But I do that every day.
When this passes, I'm ready.
Well, anyway.
Not major ones.
So that would be, to me, the catch-all that once this was made legal, I mean, I personally could care less, but once it would cover that. I think most people, especially in California, are pretty liberal in those views.
That's a good point, that if you're not violating California law and you're not violating
federal
this,
law.
yeah.
And the comment is, this November, as far as I know, we're not having an election until next year.
Oh, I thought it was this November. But I don't normally do politics, so. I'm sorry.
Unless it's a special
November
election.
2020.
I think, wouldn't that make it harder to get on the ballot if it's a special election?
We'll have to look into the election law
Yeah,
and see, because there are special elections that happen throughout 2019,
Right.
and they're in certain districts.
Because I know that the state of California, they're moving to have all the elections when the statewide, so even for city council, water board, they want them all the same when you vote for president or you vote for governor or US senator. They all want to move them, so it's all once the same time, not
Yeah.
like currently where some are in odd even years and all the rest of it.
Didn't quite understand, but I think I will soon, so.
We'll work on
This
it.
is get more time to get some more.
Yeah,
We'll work on it.
are you addressing LA County or the whole state?
Just LA County.
Oh, well, that's a big difference.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought we were
Okay,
talking about.
Well,
And
because
you still
it's,
need all that many signatures?
yeah,
that's what he told me.
yeah, it's a
So,
lot.
but I mean, if even LA County did this, it could be like huge.
Are there
Huge.
any state level laws that like would LA County decriminalize, or are there state level laws that still technically apply?
I'll have to look into that.
There's almost
think so.
4 million registered voters in LA County. It's 3 million something, 800,000.
Chalk this up.
Well, there's over 10 million people, but registered voters who are current, it's a little under 4 million right now.
There are provisions in the state penal code that criminalize prostitution. I don't know if there are any local or county ordinances that add on to that. So I don't know if a petition at the county level, I mean, it could be articulated in a way that,
Well, it'd be a huge win.
Oh, yeah,
first of all.
sure.
That's
Sure.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
That we can then go and say to the state.
Yeah, if it did work, I'd love to copy and paste.
It could,
So,
could potentially go to the state Supreme Court.
Yeah.
If there's something
Well, especially if
similar.
the state challenges, if it wins in the county and the state challenges it,
Yeah,
it'll definitely.
I'd be more worried about federal challenges. Are there federal laws in this category?
Screw the federal.
well, there's FOSTA.
yeah,
That's in
definitely wanted to talk about it. Actually, I wanted to start it with anti-sex traffickers because right now they've combined us with sex traffickers. Ridiculous. It's like it's almost the same thing as calling slaves with slave owners. So stupid, but because decriminalization always lowers sex trafficking. So, but can we let them?
Yes.
yeah, come on up. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, hello, my name's Robin. Hello, everyone, I'm Judith. Hi. So, I have a holistic wellness center, and, we do a variety of holistic,
healing modalities, including massage therapy, hypnotherapy, Reiki, energy healing, you name it, we do it. But I also include Tantra too, which is also very therapeutic, and everyone thinks it's sex, but it's not really sex, it's more sensual, and we help a lot of people with that. With couples, you have people that have a variety of sexual problems, including like ED, intimacy issues. You have people that, like recently I had a couple, and the wife had a hysterectomy, and, her husband couldn't, they couldn't get intimate anymore. So I helped them with that. And so anyway, it's a real thing. And now, I'm a criminal, all of a sudden. I'm not allowed to advertise on, for it. All the platforms that I was advertising are all gone because they're all afraid. And I'm also a licensed massage therapist too. So even just regular massage is also attacked. So anyway, and then now she'll tell you her story.
So I've been working as a massage therapist for the past 5 years now. I am certified. I recently went from working with a big corporation, Soothe. I'm sure you guys heard of it. It's a mobile app. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me. And Robin hired me on at her office, which is amazing. It is a holistic center, and I connected with that very well. But I too was interested in training in Tantra, so I offer massage, and I also throw a bit of Tantra into my sessions.
And ASMR.
And ASMR, everyone, if you're interested. So, but because of the way I describe my services, I find that my website alone is very difficult to find. You cannot search under massage, sensual. You cannot use the words Tantra anymore, Ligam, Yoni. All these words have been banned and censored. So another aspect to this FOSTA bill is that it's another internet censorship. So that's affecting consumers, and it's also affecting providers. So even though I myself am not a sex worker or prostitute per se, the verbiage of my services falls under that category, and it also makes it difficult for me to work. I'm a regular person like everyone here. I have a wife, I've got 2 kids, and I pay my taxes. But now I went from low to middle class to, day-by-day wages, week-by-week wages, maybe month-by-month for the past year now, and I'm very scared for my livelihood and my family. So FOSTA to me is demonizing a certain group of people in order to enact a different, they have a different agenda, this bill, and you have to consider the people that passed it. Half of the time when there's legislation that's passed, it benefits the policymakers. So they're the ones that in the end will benefit because they will be making profit either from advertisement platforms by generating higher costs to the providers or the consumer who is desperate to find those services. So thank you, Trump administration.
Yeah.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a comment and a question. First, it's great to hear you guys' stories. I think more of these stories need to be told. I think what's been refreshing about this recent story that's come out of Florida with the whole scandal is people are starting to push back against the standard narrative that all sex workers are victims and that all clients are perverted monsters. There are people who are really just starting to critically question, what were these vice cops really doing down there? What did they actually find out, and so forth? So I think it's refreshing that there's a pushback on the narrative. Regarding the local petition measure from the Florida scandal, I read a story about this organization called Decriminalize Sex Work. I don't know if you've heard of them. They've got a guy who spent 20-something years at Marijuana Policy Project. His name's Rob Campia. I think he's libertarian, but he did a lot to help push for the legalization of marijuana, and he's put together what seems like a worthwhile organization. They're
He might help out with.
yeah, they might be worth connecting to. Their mission statement is to provide political and technical expertise to the cause of decriminalizing prostitution and sex work generally in the United States. So they might be an organization to get in touch with as part of this effort, and at least provide like a microphone. So I'd be happy to send you. Yeah, sure. And then my question, do you all know, are there any efforts among sex workers or sex worker advocacy groups to file a First Amendment legal challenge to FOSTA?
Right now, there's a lawsuit against FOSTA that I think you're gonna have the final arguments in April. There's one where a group up north called, I think, Eslero, they went to Supreme Court, they lost. They're trying to gather the money to go back to Supreme Court. Hawaii has a bill for decriminalization on the table that I think it just needs, the governor can veto it, and then if the governor doesn't veto it, it becomes law eventually. I don't know how long it takes.
Yeah.
Washington DC was talking about decriminalizing for a while, but I don't know what happened to that. There's been protests all over, sex workers going crazy, and that's the stuff I know about right now. So right now, LA would be pretty much the big thing.
If I recall, I think I read the first big lawsuit that was filed against FOSTA. I believe it was dismissed for lack of standing. And because none of them had been affected by it yet. And I think they're fighting that. But it wasn't dismissed on the merits, it was dismissed for lack of standing, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I had more people that wanted to come, but it was just a little hard. And some people are really terrified. Obviously, look at me how I was, right? And I'm one of the more bold people, so I think maybe as we're meeting with some people, if we could just maybe not ask their status, like, are you a sex worker or not? Because they might not want to say. And there's so many different levels of sex work. There's you're doing just this little thing all the way on up to full-blown prostitution or something, and people are sensitive, and
Can you talk a little bit about that? So this is LA. I've been to a lot of goth clubs. There's BDSM scene. There's people who are dominatrixes. They don't have sex, but it's considered sex work.
Yes, when I was a dominatrix, I actually never even took off any clothes.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't touch them there. It was.
And for crime stats, do you know, are they considered sex workers in the eyes of law enforcement?
It's iffy because if you are that kind of dominatrix, it's not technically illegal.
Right.
But some dominatrixes they do. Or what if you do a little bit of CBD, and so you're whipping it or something, then you're kind of touching it a little bit, and so it gets gray.
So there's a gray area. So
it's a
you
gray
go to
line.
Bar Sinister and you get a spanking.
Yeah. Or do you?
Well,
You're fully clothed.
Is it if you give them money though? That's the thing. Isn't that technically what the only real difference is? Like, two consenting adults can do something for free, but if there's an exchange of money, doesn't that all of a sudden cross that boundary?
I was never sure when I was a dominatrix if I was in the gray area or not, because even if I just have wood and I'm going like that, is that still touching it?
What are we touching?
Well, again, as long as there's no money exchange, that's just what I'm trying to say. It's such a bizarre, weird concept to us, I think, in a lot of ways.
It's the money that makes it illegal.
And it's just so bizarre. It's like you can do that as much as you want, as long as no.
I really view this as a huge women's rights issue that's kind of merging with the men's rights issue, kind of working together in the same.
That's a good way to spin it.
Yeah, the women's rights part is that hey, I should be able to do what I want with my body, and the men's rights is the same almost.
Chris, did you have a question?
Yeah, what's that? So the domination thing is illegal. Is that at the club where you're committing those acts, or is it?
I actually, when I started,
You should
I actually called it when I was independent, I the reasons they took down these websites that help you review safety of worker, clients, and they took down our job websites is because those websites actually saved us. I was a pure slave in those clubs. They were taking all my money. And I got free and independent. And they didn't like that. No, the government's not getting their kickbacks anymore. So I actually, when I went independent, called the cops. Like all the girls I tell us, you can't believe it. And I was like, hello, I want to be dominatrix, and I need to know what's illegal. And they freaked out. And, they were like, they basically told me that as long as I don't touch their genitals, I should be okay. But then later, after the call, I was like just so confused. What is touching? It's like, if I use this whip to touch it, then is that, that's where I was getting into the gray zone and I never knew.
I think the key word for the law is sexual arousal, so I think that includes touching.
It could be anything that's worded so vaguely, it's just even like indecent acts.
Right.
It's like they can interpret it how they
Right,
want to.
exactly.
It's just so pathetic. Anything could be indecent. Kissing a man could be indecent. It's like, I give you, I went to this gay rights parade once and the girl was giving out kisses for 50 cents. I got a kiss on my cheek, could pay her 50 cents, but that could be an indecent act.
Was she stopped?
Got paid.
Cops coming.
No, she was just merrily racking up this.
All right. So we're kind of getting into the weeds here.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to move this forward at this point? We signed the thing so you can get in contact with us. What's the next step?
It'll be for us to tighten up this petition, get in touch with the LA County Register Recorder's office, and find out the soonest date for you to get it on the ballot.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
I would like the contact information because I remain friends with Norma Jean Almador. And she was like a cop that turned in like honest work, so she became a prostitute. And she keeps some really helpful websites.
Yeah.
I'd like to get you that information. Okay.
One last point we'd like to bring up, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but just really quick to type this all up.
Yeah, that the Sesta Fosta also is taking the websites down like from Reddit and things like that too, regarding even talking about safe sex. There are sex educators online that now they have been shut down too. So, it's so broad and it affects so many innocent people. It's unbelievable.
I have a website and I would love to have your stuff on my website.
Do you want her email address? Do you want
I would
her
like the email address, please.
Okay, I'll write it down for her.
Okay, yeah, here, just write it on.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can. That is absolutely true. I have a podcast.